Can I just start by asking about team news? How's Enoch Mwepu? Is he in contention to play on Saturday?
Yeah, he's recovered well. He's trained this week. We need to see how he is tomorrow, but I think he's got a really good chance of being in the squad. We'll look at obviously his game time in terms of how much he can play, but he's been training with us this week, so he's available.
And the club showed Stephen Alzate back on the grass this week, which is a positive. Do you think he could be back sooner than previously thought?
I'm not sure. I think he's making good progress. Him and Danny are making really good progress. The guys are really positive with them, so we'll see. They've had quite lengthy injuries, so I don't want to put too much of a expectation on them, but every report I have from the guys is it's positive and they're responding really well, so we're hopeful.
The game against Leeds is the Rainbow Laces game for Brighton. The theme of this year's campaign is Lace Up and Speak Up. How important is it that football and the Premier League gets behind this campaign?
I think it's vital. I think as a game, we should be welcome for everybody, regardless of their who they love. So, fantastic initiative. I think it's something that football still needs to carry on working with, because we have to carry on being open and welcome to all. It's an issue we've been speaking about a lot, regardless of, like I said, sexuality, colour of the skin, religion, whatever. It should be a game for everybody, and I'm proud that football's taken a step towards that. I think it's, again, stuff that we can do better.
What stuff can we do better?
I think it's more continual. I think it's more education, it's more conversation, it's more honesty, it's more openness around the things that challenge people. The more that gets out there in the open, I think the better.
Do you think we're going to get to a point soon where a Premier League player may openly come out as gay?
I hope so. And I think that's part of it's part of the challenge. I think we've taken some steps, but not enough. Historically, culturally, it's a very masculine, heterosexual environment. And thankfully the world is changing and people feel freer to come out and be who they are regardless of their sexuality, but it's not easy as well, and we've had some recent stories where people have taken those steps, not from this country. I think there's one in Australia. Big congratulations to him, but there needs to be more, and I think the more open we are, the more honest we are, the more conversations we have, the more initiatives like this we have, the greater the chance for that happening.
A big story in football at the moment is the recommendation that an independent regulator oversees football. Now, I know you wouldn't have had any chance at all to digest the report. It's a long report, but in principle, is it a good idea for football to be overseen by an independent regulator, or should it be looking after its own affairs?
I think the reality is we're in a market economy, and it's easy for me to speak about it in the Premier League. I think it's hard. I think we've almost gone a little bit too far, it seems. Anything that we can do to improve the game, I'm all for, to support the game. Most of my playing career was in the lower leagues, so I know the struggles you have. I remember one Christmas not getting salary because of different things. The club hadn't managed their finances very well. It's down to the clubs to do that, but of course, if there's anything that we can do as a collective to make the game better, I think that's important. But yeah, I haven't seen enough of what the proposals are to regulate now. When you look at the dynamics of football in terms of who owns football clubs and the governance in football now, I think this might be hard to do, but I haven't seen enough of it to pass any more comment than that, Elliot, to be honest.
Thanks very much, Graham. And just kind of one more from me. Robert Sanchez is available again after his one-match suspension. Jason Steele played very well at Aston Villa. You're not going to tell us, obviously, who's going to play, but what considerations come into it when you make your decision as to whether Robert should come back in or not?
Well, I mean, how he is. I mean, we believe in Rob a lot. We know his quality, and we also know Jason's quality. So we're very lucky. Two different goalkeepers, two different stages of their careers, but both really, really important for us. Thank you. Always.
Graham, how has Robert reacted since the red card? How did it affect him?
He's reacted really well, I would say. I mean, disappointed in terms of the result on the day because we drew and we didn't finish the game as well as we'd like. It's a football action that can happen, so there's no blame for Rob, no negativity for that. It's part of his experience development as a player, so we're all behind him and he'll come back stronger for it.
He'd had a couple of difficult moments in games before that. Now he's had 3 weeks without a Brighton game. I know all footballers are confident, but he seems to have a real super confidence about him. Have you seen any change in him as he's going through perhaps the first difficult spell of his after an amazing year?
Not really. He's quite a level-headed guy. He keeps things in perspective. Obviously, he's lucky because Ben Roberts works really well with him, and he's got the support of his team, he's got the support of everybody here. As I said previously, we believe in him. We know his quality. The sky's the limit for him, but he's still a young goalkeeper, and you can't shortcut that process. That's the reality of it. Regardless of whatever we did. As a professional, whether it's a goalkeeper, whether it's a journalist, you have to go through a process, you have to take steps. You guys that sit here, fantastic journalists and presenters and whatever else, and that hasn't always been the case. You have to take the steps to get there. Same with the goalkeeper. But the belief in Rob is incredibly high, and he's going to be fantastic for us.
It's easier to bluff it as a reporter.
You would know.
Absolutely. I know none of you get too high after a win, too low after defeats. How has the reaction been, though, after the disappointment last weekend as a group?
As you'd imagine, we're frustrated because we didn't really play as well as we'd like to play. We weren't terrible, but we weren't as good as we'd like. And in this league, as I've said before, for us to get a win, we have to perform well and really well. So we've been looking at the things we can do better. The group are an honest group. The group they've been fantastic all season in terms of how they've been working. So they want to improve. They want to get better. They want to understand what they can do. So that's been really good. And now we're looking forward to the next game.
It's probably almost certainly too basic, but when you look at the first group of games that went so very, very well, and then the next group of games which have largely been draws, can you compare the average sort of performance level? Has there been much of a change?
I would say no. Brentford, for example, we won the game 1-0. It's a tight game. Did we deserve to win because we played so well? No, not really. It was a tight game. It could have been a 0-0. Probably a bit like Aston Villa. But while it's like that, the margin can go the other way, and some days it can, some days it can't. What we have to do is try and play better, understand our performance a little bit better so we can perform at a higher level more often. I think we've had games where we have done that, and we've had games where not quite so, but throughout it all we've managed to pick up some points, and that's also important because this league is like it is. You can go a long time between wins because of the quality of the opposition, because of how difficult it is. You look at the Premier League now, you've got the top three that are probably three of the best teams in the world, and then you've got pretty much anybody that can beat anybody. You don't have to look at the goal difference of the league. You've got, I think, 3 or 4 teams with positive goal difference. So then that tells you something about the competitiveness of the Premier League.
What about your next opponents? Have you watched? Well, you obviously have watched a lot of Leeds, but what have you made of them in recent weeks?
Yeah, they've suffered a little bit with injuries, which can disrupt, of course, your team. They missed some key players last time against Tottenham, but even then they played really well first half. I was at the game, really impressed with how they went about the game. But you look at the front four. If they're all fit, it's 4 from 5. If it's Bamford, if it's Rodrigo, it's Rafinha, it's Jack Harrison, it's Dan James. So there's they're dangerous players. And obviously Marcelo's done an amazing job there. Fantastic how they play, how clear they are with what they want to try and do. They want to perfect what they want to try and do. I have huge respect for Leeds United.
You did the double over them last year. The game at the Amex. I mean, you know what you're going to get from Leeds. They're going to work furiously hard. The way you beat them at the Amex particularly, how proud were you of the way the players really put the game plan into action, sort of outwork them, press them high, all of that sort of stuff, almost beat them at their own game a little bit?
Well, it wasn't. I think it's just some days in football you have a good day and the opponent doesn't. They missed a couple of players. If we're going to be fair to them, goals can help you in a game. We scored at a good time relatively early. Danny scores at the end to finish it off, but until then it's still 1-0, quite tight. But that was one of our good performances in the season. There's no denying that. And I think you have to play well and you have to have a bit of luck to beat Leeds United, because they make it really difficult for you.
Well, I hope the luck's with you the weekend.
Thank you. You're on mute, Johnny. Still mute.
Yeah, it was actually the host who muted me, so I'm not sure if they'd heard my question.
I was trying to
before.
unmute you.
Wait, we might have to mute him again, Paul. We might have to mute him. Depends what his question is.
Yeah. Just on Leeds United, I mean, some people say that they're sort of unique in the Premier League. Does that make them even more difficult to prepare for? Because the fluidity, the intensity, there's probably no team quite like them in the Premier League.
No, I think you're right, but I would say every team brings its own something to the league. That's what makes it so interesting, and it's about understanding what each team brings. And I think the thing with Leeds is it's just so authentic, it's so clear, and they've had an amazing journey with Marcelo there, and promotion, and a big club like Leeds United with that support and belief behind them. I think they're always going to be a fantastic opponent in the Premier League. So it's a game that you have to look forward to. You know what you're going to get. You're going to get an intensity that is really impressive, and you have to stand up to that.
One player who seemed to excel last weekend was Dan James, a player you know really well. Are we starting to see what he's really capable of, and do you think he can flourish in this Leeds United side?
Well, I think it's the same with, people make the assumption that you just move from one club to another and everything just goes straight forward. It's never like that. You have to understand each other, get used to the different environment, get used to what the new team requires. But the one thing I know about Dan is he's an honest guy. He'll try his absolute best, and Marcelo and his staff will help him understand what he needs to do to fit into their team. And the longer he's there, the better he'll get.
We saw pictures of you at the game last weekend. I mean, how much can you get out and see games live, and how much do you rely on sort of watching them on videos? Because I know it's difficult because it's a busy schedule, but do you prefer that to be there live at the games?
I think sometimes, Johnny, it's nice to go. I think the reality, what we have now is we have these wide-angle cameras, so pretty much, you can see, you don't get the TV footage, because TV footage you don't get to see hardly anything of the game. When you get the tactical cams, you can see pretty much the whole match, or you can see the whole match. And when you're analysing the game, it's nice to be able to rewind and pause and watch again, whereas live, you've seen it as it is. But there is also something to that, and it's also nice to be, after the year and a half we've had, and it's nice to see some football, feel the atmosphere, and watch the teams play in their own habitat, so to speak.
In your own habitat, you've won 2, drawn 2, lost 2. The home form, how happy have you been with it? Obviously, those 2 defeats against good sides in City and Everton.
Yeah, I mean, that probably sums up where we've been probably this year in terms of the good, the bad, and the not so. I wouldn't say ugly, but not fantastic. And I think that's where we want to try and keep improving, get our level a little bit higher. We've done a lot of things good, but always room to improve. And the next game gives you that opportunity. I think, like I said, it's going to be, I think, a good game. The way Leeds play makes it, an exciting game to watch and an interesting game to watch. So we'll need our supporters, but we'll give it our best.
Thanks, Graham.
Cheers.
See you the weekend.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks, JC. Jim for tomorrow, and also we'll take hands now for Saturday.